missile defense system off the ground. Abramson will shift from his current job as chief of NASA's Space Shuttle program. We reported last night on this broadcast how the U.S. Air Force is determined to remain the world's best in high-tech, high-maintenance weaponry. Tonight, in his second report, Pentagon correspondent David Martin tells us how a growing problem is making sure the pilots keep up with the planes.
This plane is doing something no other plane has ever done, actually listening as its pilot speaks and doing what he says.
Navigation. Okay.
The pilot asks what weapons he still has.
Inventory. Okay.
The plane shows him the missiles and bombs under his wing. He tells the plane to prepare for an air-to-ground attack.
Air to ground.
The plane reports it's ready, and the pilot releases the bombs. This spring, the plane will start talking back, much like this simulator is already doing.
Report fuel.
3,400 pounds.
For the pilot, it's more than a nifty trick. It's a matter of survival.
If the pilot is engaged in air combat, his hands are needed on his controllers, and his eyes are out of the cockpit dealing with the airborne threat. The ability to ask the system for missile status and get the voice feedback of whatever it is. That's information that helps me continue my job without having to give up that precious visual contact with a threat.
Voice command is just one of several attempts to help the pilot cope with the increasingly complex job of flying high-performance aircraft. There are helmet-mounted sights which allow him to aim his weapons just by looking at his target. New cockpit displays that give him a preview of what he will see during his final run-in to the target. Colored warnings to show where he's most likely to be hit by ground fire. There are even efforts to study the way the pilot's eye moves and his brain thinks, all in the race to keep up with the machine he's flying.
The busiest task a pilot has is to be able to absorb all the information that's being presented to him. He's got the radar display, the heads-up display, his flown flight instruments. He's got information coming from people talking to him on the ground, from other aircraft talking to him. So he has got to be able to absorb all that information and assimilate it and make very rapid, fast judgments as to how to use the airplane.
This is a mock-up of an F-15 cockpit. It has about 70 dials and 300 switches. In the cockpit of the future, all these dials and switches will vanish and be replaced by something like this Darth Vader helmet.
Anything that you can put on a computer terminal, you can project to the pilot using the helmet-mounted display. All of the information that the pilot needs to have is projected into virtual space. And by virtual space, we mean that the images aren't really there in terms of being able to reach out and touch them.
If they're not real, how does he operate them?
We're measuring his hand position in space. Then he can reach out and touch the switches that appear to be in space and activate them, even though the switches aren't really there.
And that's not all.
There's no reason why we cannot fly the airplane by just moving the hand. For example, if the pilot wants to roll the airplane, he would roll his hand the way he would want the wings in the aircraft to go. Or if he would want to climb, he would pitch up, or dive, he would pitch down.
The simplest way to think about it conceptually is Star Wars and R2-D2. We're taking the first steps, going on a very long path of getting to where we have R2-D2 in our fighters.
Ultimately, it may be possible, even necessary, to take man out of the cockpit entirely. If that happens, planes will become indistinguishable from missiles. But don't try telling a fighter pilot that. He'll tell you that no computer can ever replace the human ability to react to the unknowns of combat. David Martin, CBS News, Edwards Air Force Base, California.
A bit of balm today for beleaguered parents.